Hi, everyone. My name is Stuti, and welcome to the podcast. Today, I have the honor and pleasure of interviewing my partner, who also happens to be a great sales guy. So, to give a brief introduction, he's been working for 14 years, and for the past 12 years, he's been in SaaS sales. So, he knows a thing or two about that. And I am 100% a complete noob in this conversation. So, he's going to have to answer a lot of dumb questions that I'm going to throw his way. And today he's a regional VP with Shipsy, which is also a SaaS company. Would that be correct?
Yeah,
Okay, I'm just confirming. Okay, so welcome to the podcast, Keshav. How are you feeling?
I'm good. This is the first time I'm actually doing one of these podcasts. For such a long time, I was just a listener. Uh,
Yes.
listen to such great folks and sales leaders in SaaS space speaking about the industry and what do they do, how do they build their teams, and how do they create a high performing team. So I hope I do justice to your audience once, and yeah, I mean they find some insights into my answers which can help them. Yeah.
I'm sure you will. Do you also want to mention how honored you're feeling to be a part of my podcast? Do you want to leave that space?
No, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely, I feel very honored to be a part of this for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Now, a very pertinent question, which is very important for this conversation, is that what is SaaS sales? So I'm just gonna get right into it, and I'm gonna have you.
See, I mean, yeah. So see, I mean, we need a very large segment to just talk about SaaS or software as a service that's defined. Uh, I'm just a part of a small subset of
Okay.
SaaS, which is called the cloud SaaS
Okay.
space, where you have companies like Salesforce, Microsoft 365, Zoom, uh, the platform we are talking on, are Capillary Technologies, one of the companies that I worked for.
Sure.
And essentially the difference between SaaS sales and traditional sales, if I may put it, in my opinion, the main difference is the solution component, that there's a large focus on solutioning that you do for your customers in SaaS sales.
Okay.
Uh, with, that's a difference from your traditional sales. So that's how I'd put it. But this in itself is a very large topic, which would need
Yeah.
a totally different segment, if I may put it that way. Yeah.
Maybe we can like take another day to like sort of just delve into it and maybe talk more about it to understand it. But today I thought it would
So,
be like a good thing to have a conversation with you on how to build a team. And that's coming from the fact that it can also, the information that you might share with us can also be translated to any other kind of team that you could build, if not everything, but there are things that people could take away, even if it's building any generic team, which is high achieving, right? So you've worked as a senior director and then, today you're a regional VP, which clearly means that you've led teams and you've had members report into you, right? So my first question to you is, what are the essential qualities you look for in a successful team member? And that could also mean in terms of hiring, or it could also mean for people who make it, that once they do get hired, also the ones who will continue to be successful in the process.
see, I think the first thing that you need to keep in mind is that you'll you will make mistakes while hiring as well. It's I think someone in my position, their main task is to minimize the number of mistakes you make, if I may put it that way. And if you're asking me about what are the qualities that I look for, that's a question I ask myself every time when I'm interviewing someone.
Sure.
Because situations, the kind of accounts you're going after, the kind of sales strategy that you have, they keep changing the kind of resource that you're going after
Right.
and the kind of team that you need to achieve your own targets.
Right.
Having said that, the first thing that comes to my mind is discipline, which is something valid for any walk of life. And when it comes to discipline, I mean, you need to be very clear in your daily tasks, what you have to achieve in order to achieve the wider goal or the longer term goal that you have of maybe hitting a target or getting a particular customer or whatever your KPIs are. So first thing would be discipline. That I mean, that is very, very important and very hard to judge as well when you're interviewing someone. So you have to ask questions around this from various different angles to sort of judge whether the person will fit into your team or not.
Yeah, I'm so glad.
And would do the job.
Sorry, I'm interrupting, but like just so that maybe you can delve a little deeper into this, because you did acknowledge to the fact that discipline can be very vague and it'd be very difficult to define, especially when you're just interviewing somebody. So as a leader, when you're interviewing, if you could just talk about one or two questions where you're able to figure out that this is a person who has discipline or practices discipline in their life, what would a question look like?
So I typically, like, it's not something that you can judge from a straightforward question. Like, I often ask folks about what is their sales process? How do they approach a particular customer? What are the different steps that they see during a particular sales process? And while they're defining what are the different steps that they go for during a sales process, I often throw questions where I am sort of looking for how would they react to particular situations, and what kind of tasks they'll accomplish in order to make sure that
Their end goal is
that particular end goal is met. So and in that you try and find that how proactive a particular person is, whether the person is very clear about the learnings that the person has to go through in order to make sure that they are delivering or reacting to the customer's needs and planning way in advance as well. So these are the things. Another thing that I do is often give them a case study, which I would like to see how do they respond to that, which is, of course, in the second or the third round. I also look for a go-to-market strategy from every individual that I hire, that if they were in this particular market, how would they approach the market considering the target that is there, and who are the people that they would tap into and why. And that suddenly tells you as how detail oriented is the person. And I feel that as detail oriented you are, you also know that there are very minute level of tasks that you have to accomplish, or you have to have the team accomplish for you on a daily basis in order to meet that long-term goal. So like I said, I mean, it can be various different approaches through which you can arrive at this particular point. See, some may be, and even after folks answer this, some may be very, very good as per me, but not for someone else. So again, it really differs. That synergy also has to also has to come together between the team leader and the member as well. So like so that you're very aligned on how you want to function and achieve the goal together. But that was the first point that I looked for, like I was saying. And then I would sort of divide this into two parts, going back to your question, which is what are the qualities that I look for. So the first point is you look for all general sales traits, which is your good communication skills, someone who is very good at articulation, someone who is goal oriented, someone who is very proactive, someone who knows the product very well or has the desire to know the product very well, go into the details of that, someone who can charm for sure, someone who is creative enough within different deals, different conversations, because you have to be, like, from customer to customer, it has to be very different. Someone who has a good time management, and to top it all off, someone who can maintain a very good positive mindset on a day in day out basis to be able to make sure that they're headed in the right direction. And of course, that last point is easier said than done. Like, I mean, it's really, really difficult to keep a positive mindset. Now, adding on to this, if I may go on the SaaS piece, what are the SaaS things that you need for SaaS sales? One is you have to be a great listener. Like, often, just like in relationships, right? I mean, you have to be a great listener. So you have to do the same. It's exactly like that. I mean, you have to like get into a mindset of that you are in a relationship with this customer. You have to listen. You have to understand their problems. You have to feel their problems. You have to empathize with them. You have to within conversations also empathize with them, that I mean, can totally understand that why, if this particular problem is existing, then how your KPIs must not be meeting, and you may be struggling with what you want to achieve in the year. And the customers really appreciate that when you like really get into their problems. So someone who's a great listener. Often, I mean, you have salespeople who just like talk, and like the entire interview finishes, and you're like, I know nothing. I mean, they spoke for 30 minutes, but I know nothing about this person because, yeah, I mean, it was just a monologue.
Just like a bad date.
And yeah, and yeah, I mean, and please do keep asking me questions so that this is not a monologue. And the second thing, so listening is one. The second thing is that a SaaS sales individual is very targeted. Yeah. You can't have a knock all doors and see where it sticks approach. You have to get in with a mindset that these are the 100 customers. 100 is actually a lot. These are the 60, 70, 40, 50, whatever customers. If the higher the revenue of the customer, the lesser number of customers you should target, because of course you have to put in a great deal of effort in an enterprise customer, because you're mapping different departments, different people you're working. And of course, the check size in these accounts is also bigger. So you can afford to put in that much effort. But say, like, you have to have a very targeted approach to the list of accounts that you want to go after, because then you're doing proper justice to those accounts. Because at the end of the day, a salesperson should remember you're going to have bad quarters, you're going to have bad years. But it's the effort that counts. You need to be very satisfied with your effort, that you gave it your 100%. It comes in really handy. And that again ties back to the positive mindset I was talking about. Third thing is you have to be incredibly patient. SaaS sales cycles typically are longer. And folks often drop the ball during a sales process. Mm-hmm. And that suddenly just makes your competition win the deal. Because your product may have been better, you may have mapped the customer very well for 4 months, but because you dropped the ball in the last 2 months, the competition just found a way and got the deal. Yeah. So you have to be incredibly patient. So patience is another thing that I look for. Fourth point is I look for someone who has the knack of mapping. You have to literally draw out the entire organization that you're selling to. And you have to not just sell to one person, but you need to you need to know not just the CMO, but the CEO, but the COO, the CFO, everyone. You need to, those are just examples if they are significant to your deal or significant stakeholders for your deal. But you need to map everyone of importance, even your detractors. Sometimes I really tell my team that, guys, the one who is a detractor, spend more time with them, because try and understand why they don't like you.
Explain what a detractor is.
Detractor is someone who doesn't like you. On an NPS scale, right? You have your promoters, you have passive, you have detractors, right? So promoters are people who like you. Passive, who are like right in the middle. Detractors who don't like you at all. So you have to spend more time with them in order to make sure that, or if not more, at least don't ignore them, because they may spoil the deal for you. They may not get you the deal, but they'll definitely spoil the deal for you. So you have to spend a lot of time with them. And this is where you need to bring your entire team together in some of these large deals where mapping is so much more important. The last company I used to work for, one of my managers used to say, and that's so true, that it takes a village to win a deal. So you have to, you can't like it's humanly not possible that every time you meet everyone, you can charm and like have a connect with everyone, right? Everyone's not a Shah Rukh Khan or a Brad Pitt or whatever, right? So, I mean, and even they may not charm everyone. So, I mean, it's like you have to use your team well, and like I tell these sales representatives that you are the people in charge and you have to use us, your managers or your CEO or your VPs. You have to use them at the right point to get them in and meet and make them meet different people so that you have mapped an entire organization down to the level that you know what is happening when. You have to get it down to that level. So that's another point. So these are some additional points that I'll say are very much needed. And see, it's very difficult to get this in 3 or 4 rounds of interview, and that is why you do have failures as well.
Yeah.
And when you have failures, it's not that the person is a failure. Sometimes even the organization is a failure, right? So it goes both ways. The resource may be a great resource, but maybe we don't know how to manage the person.
How to retain them.
So exactly. So it's not that through this, like, you know exactly who to hire and you know all of these things and many more. But yeah, I mean, these are some of the qualities that you should have as well, I feel, when you're getting into a SaaS sales space. Yeah.
That's it's quite descriptive actually. So I want to talk to you about one thing, or I want to mention this one thing which just came to my mind. So Kunal Shah, who's the CEO of Cred, right? And he's also like started a lot of startups. And there's this particular interview where he's talking about how culturally uh, we've not been taught sales and how sales is integral for anything that you do in life. So he was taking the example of relationships, right? So essentially, what
Yeah.
you have to go on a date, you have to be charming, and you have to do the drill, and you have to essentially sell yourself. So you become a product.
Yeah.
Objectifying and commodifying it is, which is the consequence of capitalism. But you go out there and you sell yourself. And when you
Yeah.
start to do that, and he was trying to explain that because the dating culture is not prevalent in India, right? A, we don't know how to sell ourselves. B, we don't know how to deal with rejection. Because no matter how you look like or what you do or you don't do, you are guaranteed,
Yeah.
right? So in our
Yeah.
company, guaranteed a mate, we'll find somebody for you, right? So he was trying
Yeah.
to draw parallels on how the piece of selling, had the dating culture been there, right, culturally, you would have realized that every aspect of your life is essentially you having to charm your way in, telling what you like, what you don't like, selling yourself, and then also dealing with rejection. So the piece of patience or resilience, things that you did touch upon, come from the fact that you are used to the fact that there are times when you will do everything right and it might just fall flat and it might not come to its fruition. Your efforts might not come to fruition, and that's fine. So that's quite interesting. And I think in the second piece where you were more specific about SaaS sales, I kept on thinking about how you said it takes a team, it takes a village. And that's true with everything. I think that can be applied to any space and capacity of your life, even in relationships. There might be one detractor, so to speak, right? You'll have to charm your way. So that's interesting that, those are the qualities that you look for. And needless to say, not everybody will have everything. And some people will acquire these traits along the process. I'm sure in your journey of seeing your team members progress or get promoted or move further up, is that you would have seen them acquire these traits, right? So
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
want to put this out there, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that everything you're not born with and everything you might not come with when you're entering an interview. But the idea is that you can probably build it along the process. Would that be a correct statement?
Oh, absolutely. Most of the things that I said, I think, I don't know what few of my managers saw in me that they put me into sales, because honestly, like in the beginning, I was surprised myself, but like they must have seen something. But was I there with all of the things that I just spoke about? No, I've had bad quarters, I've had bad years. I've sometimes when achieved a particular quarter or a year, it's just because out of the 10 deals, like, I mean, 4 or 5 where my manager or my bosses or my team members helped me out so much, where I was just doing some of the other stuff in the deal, but some of the main things were being done by them. So, like I said, it's a team play at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And you have to be open to accepting that sometimes you may not be the lead guy, but you should have the smartness in you to ask for help at the right time.
Right. Oh yeah,
that in the
again.
second or the third meeting, if you straight away, or even the first meeting, if you get that there's an opportunity here, but this person may not, align with me.
Yeah.
You should find ways to get someone else in, because ultimately there's an opportunity and you can still win the deal while you may not be in the front. It's just like a sports game. I mean, out of the 11 players in the field on the field, it's not that the striker or the batsman in football, in cricket, the batsman, it's not that the batsman will always win you the game. Sometimes the bowlers do it. So,
yeah.
Or vice versa. I mean, yeah, you have to have that. Sure. Yep.
And before I move on to like next question, I don't know if this is a relevant plug here, but I used to always love this quote about leadership, which was that in order to spot a good leader is that you enter a room and you're unable to spot the leader. The leader should be that amazing that in a group of leaders you can't spot who the leader is, which speaks volumes of the leadership, so to speak, that you really trained your people so well that a person can't identify who the leader is. So I really
Wow.
love that.
Yeah, I'd actually never heard that. And like, I imagine a day that's the case, where, like, I mean, your entire team has such command that everyone stands out to be a leader. Yeah, absolutely. And those are winning teams. Those are winning teams,
Well,
for
great
sure.
that you mentioned, because that brings me to my next question. What would you say is your approach to building a high achieving team? Like teams that do really well with like really high achieving team members within it.
You can actually start that with something that you just said, that the first thing that I look for is that, and I'm going to use a sports analogy here. I have been supporting Manchester United for such a long time, but in the last 10 years, we haven't achieved a lot, because I don't think so. The 11 players who were in the team are all leaders. Whereas if you look at the likes of Manchester City or Liverpool or some of the others, like, I mean, the team was full of leaders. All the, like, out of 11, you could seriously name like 7, 8 of them. All of them are leaders in their own way. And that's the thing. You have to create leaders who can run a deal by themselves and take help whenever needed. They have to have the street smartness to, like, manage a deal in the right way and connect with the right stakeholders. But do all of us come with that? No. So there are certain things that you have to do as a leader to make sure that you're building a high performing sales team. The first thing is that you need to have your strategy very clearly defined. Before you set out into a new financial year, you need to have a list of accounts that you're looking at based on the region you're operating in. Mm-hmm. And I typically, what I do is that I look at the accounts that would fit in with a particular individual who's already in my team. Right. And I start mapping those accounts with them, who will fit the best. So it's based on their experience. Some are very experienced in retail, some are very experienced in banking, and so on and so forth, right? Telecom, etc. Then you have certain leftover accounts. And if you don't have the right talent to manage those accounts, you go out looking in the market and you hire someone who has that relevant experience. This also helps the HR who are hiring, that they have the right JD with the right skill set, which is needed to hire this new resource. Now, once you have that set, so that's step one when you're creating a high performance team, that you have to have a very clear defined strategy, or sales strategy that you're going for in that particular financial year. Second is, based on that, of course, like I said, the HR goes out looking for candidates, and then you are able to hire the right profile because you know exactly what you're looking for, right? The right experience, the right number of years, the right kind of experience in which industry, you know all of that, and then hence you're able to hire the right person who fits the profile. The third thing is training. I myself, coming from a startup world, I think this is a thing that we take a little lightly, where we do not spend enough time ramping up folks. It has to be the most important thing in this high performing sales team answer, right? I mean, you have to make the person go through various case studies about and make them learn about the product, make them go through various use cases, make sure that there are certifications done where the person feels comfortable with the product to that level. After that, also make sure that there is a very clear and established, after the training, of course, the fourth point is that there's a very clear metric defined with these resources, that what are they supposed to do. And it can't just be that you have to achieve such and such number. Of course, that's the most important thing, that they go after a target. But there has to be something apart from that also. What about their own personal growth? You have to make sure that you insert different things like upskilling them into various different subjects, which would contribute to their overall growth.
Right.
Because this then keeps your high performing assets also feel very much a part of the company, because you're making them feel that you're definitely invested in them, in their overall growth, and not just contribute to, hey, how much business are you getting me, right? So that has to be there. There have to be a minimum number of hours per quarter that you have to mandate that they have to spend in this space, right? Where you upskill them based on their job profile, based on the accounts that they're going after. You can give them different courses to upskill them on, and hence establish clear metrics for the year so that they know what they are chasing, and it's your job to help them to get to that particular milestone or that KPI.
Yeah.
Fifth is, I think, fifth point, right? I think I'm on the fifth point. Sorry, I'm just going on. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah.
Yeah. Fifth. So fifth is that you have to foster a culture of constant feedback. You of course take feedback also. It's not just a one-way street, but you constantly keep telling them about things that they're doing well and properly document it. And this I again learned through my managers, where they used to clearly document every quarter, what am I doing good, what I'm not doing, what I'm struggling with. And they used to then continue that in the next quarter with, good job on XYZ, but these areas still need improvement, or you need to add these, focus more on these areas while you've improved, but the more improvement is needed. Stuff like that, where this then again makes the team member very well aware of what they are supposed to work on in order to perform well at work, and they know very clearly, and you can cite examples. Do cite examples of where you saw this and what was the result of a good point or a bad point, whatever that is, right? So keep that constant feedback going on. Invest in technology. That would be my sixth point. Very, very important. All your cadences should be running on your internal CRM, where you are able to clearly see what's the opportunity, what's the action taken on those, what was the action taken on those opportunities, which stage they are in. Of course, it helps you as management to track the business, but it also helps your team members to have a very clear dashboard where they know what are the opportunities, which one's moving, which one they need to focus more on, what are the tasks which are pending, etc., etc. So definitely invest in that. That really helps. So these are the 6 points that I would say that I feel that are very, very important to, or I have seen work very well for myself when you're, in order to create a high performing sales team. Yeah.